Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers. In this video, myself and Kieran are going to be doing a first run review of the Altra EGO 2. Let's take a look. The Altra EGO 2 costs £130 or $140, weighs in at 296 grams or 10.4 ounces for men in a size 8. The drop is 0mm and that's a 27mm stack height. The EGO 2 is a trail shoe that's designed to feel comfortable on the road but still able to tackle lighter trails. With a 27mm stack and a 0 drop, it's a shoe that's built to feel natural when running off-road, with a noticeably wide toe box to allow your feet plenty of space to move around. The engineered mesh upper has been updated to be more durable and incorporate Altra's slim Footshape fit to hold the shoe in place securely around key areas. There's an Altra EGO midsole foam for a balanced ride across road and trail, and that's covered with a healthy layer of MaxTrac outsole rubber to provide grip as well as protection for the midsole.
So, out on the first run in the Altra EGO 2, just want to say a quick word on fit. I'm running in a UK 8.5. and this is how I would go true to size. Plenty of room in the toe box as you get with Altras, plenty of heel padding and cushioning. They hold tightly in the heel, they're no slipping, got good lace that locked down, and I would suggest going true to size so far on what I've done in this first run.
So the fit for me in the EGO 2, I would say that it does come up a bit small. This is a size 8, I'm a size 8. I don't normally have a problem with many shoes, but I did find these came up a bit small. I've not done loads of miles in this shoe, so it wasn't an issue for me, but it's definitely a little bit less space than I'd want at the front of the toe box. So I'd probably go up half a size in the Altra 2s.
So I'm just back from a first run in the Altra EGO 2. I'm down here in North Devon, so I've just run a bit of the North Devon coastline from a beautiful place called Westford Hoe, out running towards kind of Clovelly, which is where I was born. I've got a drip on my nose here. Apologies for that. Still sweating as I sit in the car. Yeah, what to say about these shoes? I think instant step-in comfort in these is great, actually. These are shoes that when you put them on, super comfortable, really easy to step out, go and start running in them. You know, they're plush, padded. There's loads and loads of room in the toe box, which is kind of textbook Altra. In fact, I think I'm starting to fall in love with Altra's kind of roomy toe boxes. Those anatomically correct. They follow the kind of the curve of your toes, the natural sweep of the way that your toes and your foot shape is. And actually, there's just so much room that it's just really, really comfortable. There's no jutting up against the ends of the shoes when you're on the steep downs. There's no bashing on the top of the shoe on those bits as well. So this is quite technical here. There's some very, very steep bits, very stony, very gnarly. When you're planting your feet, you're getting none of the kind of slipping, none of the bashing, and that's a really happy thing. Overall, I'd categorize these shoes really as kind of, they're sort of easy cruising trail shoes. I don't know the exact weight off the top of my head, but I think they're quite heavy, but they feel fairly light on the foot overall. They don't feel too heavy as a trail shoe goes. The grip was great on the dry stuff that I had here. There's lots of loose stones, quite technical kind of stony bits, but nothing too slippy, nothing too wet. It's very dry out here. So, but on those kind of steep bits, the grip was great, performed perfectly. Don't know how that would hold up if you're talking about something where it's a bit more wet and a bit more slippy, but yeah, on most of the kind of coastal path terrain that you've got here, which can be quite technical, they were pretty good. In terms of the upper comfort, tick, I think that's great. I think they've got a good foothold. Now, in terms of the ride, this is an Altra thing that I've found so far. When you put them on, initially they feel firm. You know, a lot of trail shoes do. Innovates do the same, to be honest. You know, I think certain sort of the older kind of Hokers maybe did this, but these are a firmer shoe, but I think there's just enough softness in there. I think they're quite balanced actually overall. And once you get clipping along onto the softer bits of trails, they are really nice and easy to run in. There's enough cushioning just about. They're not too soft and spongy, so you feel kind of connected to the ground. You feel the contact coming up through enough to feel sort of in control. You know, they do allow some of the lumps and bumps to come up through, and it depends. I quite like that on a trail. I feel like I quite need that. I need to know when my foot's hitting a rock. So I quite enjoyed sort of that sensation generally in terms of control. Speaking of which, I think stability in that platform, because it's a bit firmer, it's nice and wide, there's good stability on these shoes. They work very well for me in that sense as well. I actually think these would be a shoe that I could run long, slow ultras in. I've only done 5 miles, but they just had that sensation about them. When I broke into the road sections as well, And onto firmer ground, they were also fine. I felt like I clipped through. I think about 1.5 miles of that was actually on a road as I came off the coast path, which I wanted to test because I feel like this is a shoe that people might be considering taking on sort of road to trail or, you know, those kind of ultra runs. And it coped very well with those as well. Overall, I have to say on that first run, I really enjoyed the shoe. I didn't think necessarily I was going to, but I think it's a happy, easy cruising, sort of low and slow, head up, you know, mental health run out there, which is what I've just done. I'm just coming back from a cold, so I wasn't going particularly fast. These shoes worked really nicely. I'd put them in the same sort of bracket as a sort of slightly firmer Innovate shoe. Maybe the Trailfly Ultra G270, maybe something like that, where, you know, you are going to get firm. They're not going to be soft and squishy. They're probably a bit firmer, I think, than something like a Speed Goat, probably a bit heavier than a Speed Goat. But I think a really interesting shoe. I'm looking forward to doing some more miles in them, actually, because I have really enjoyed them so far. I guess the other thing that's really important to mention here, obviously these are a zero drop shoe, so they do run quite flat. You don't get quite as much rockering as I think you might find on some Hoka shoes. I didn't personally mind that. I did feel it initially a little bit. I mean, if you're not used to running in zero drop shoes, maybe you'll be aware of that. I did feel a little bit of tightness in the base of my calves. It eased off after a while, and after a while I didn't really notice I was running zero drop, and that was kind of fine. There's not quite as much rockering, so you don't get quite as much roll through as you might in some other sort of Hoka shoes, which I'd kind of put these up against in terms of the overall kind of sort of stack and the geometry to a certain extent.
I've actually done 2 runs in these now. I did a very light 5k run in them, and then I did a 10k in them as well. And the shoe is designed primarily as a road to trail shoe. So the trails and the road that I was doing it on were around park paths and some roads. And what I found is this is a zero drop shoe. I very, very rarely use a zero drop shoe. And the stack height is relatively small, 27 millimeters for something that I would use. I don't normally use many shoes that have a stack height that low. And what I found with it is that it doesn't really feel like a zero drop shoe to me. It felt, I didn't notice it was a zero drop shoe until I actually read about it afterwards. It does feel like it wasn't that alien to me running in this shoe. What I found out on the road is that midsole foam is pretty firm. It's a pretty firm midsole foam, and when it's out on the road, it does feel quite hard to run in. It just felt like I was hitting the ground a little bit hard. It doesn't feel like there was any give in the shoe, and there's definitely no softness to it as well. I'm a runner that really likes soft shoes, and this is definitely not a soft shoe. So as a road to trail shoe, I would say that it definitely doesn't really work that well on the road. That's after about 15k of running for me, so maybe that midsole foam will get a little bit softer over time. But initially, my first thoughts on it is that it is not a particularly comfortable road shoe to wear, just because it just doesn't feel like it's got any give in it at all. There's definitely no bounce back in it. There's definitely no softness in it, and it doesn't really feel that responsive to me on the road either. The other thing I would say as well on the road is that the outsole it's pretty plasticky. It is fairly sticky, but when you're actually running on the road, I was going across some wet sections on the road, and it didn't feel like it gripped onto those bits of wet pavement very well. So on the road, I wasn't a big fan of it over those first couple of runs, and definitely wouldn't want to take it out for a run that was mainly on the road. But when I got onto the actual trail sections of the run, it was a lot better. That midsole foam, that firmness in it, it just felt like it suddenly started to work for me. I wasn't doing particularly technical terrain. I was doing slightly muddy paths, grass, public footpaths, that sort of thing, gravelly areas. And on all of that, it felt very good. I definitely didn't feel like the zero drop was a problem for me. It felt like it could handle the softer ground quite well. The firmer midsole foam in here works quite well with the softer ground, so that you feel like you're actually getting something from it. And the outsole grip, it's fairly, for a shoe that's really pegged as a road to trail shoe, that outsole grip's pretty good on softer ground. I felt like it had quite a lot of control on the grass and the muddy paths that I was running on. So definitely comes into its own when you're hitting the trails or the lighter trails. It's not really a shoe designed for technical trails, but on those lighter trails, it did feel like it was significantly better at those than running on the road sections. It's not particularly light shoe. It does feel quite clunky. It doesn't look like a particularly big shoe, but it is relatively heavy. So I didn't feel like it was a particularly fast shoe to run in. I wasn't able to really pick up the pace comfortably in it over those first couple of runs. At slower paces, it felt absolutely fine. I definitely want to run faster in this. It's not a lightweight, fast trail shoe. It's really just a workhorse shoe that is designed to be used for lighter trails and stuff like that, and road, but I definitely wouldn't use it on road. Other than that, I'd say it was a relatively successful first run. I didn't notice anything massively outstanding about it. One thing I would say about the shoe is that it does have quite a lot of padding. It feels like a relatively plush shoe when you wear it. It's quite comfortable to wear. I'm not a massive fan of this wide toe box. I know Altra have wide toe boxes. I know it's designed in the same way as sort of barefoot running shoes where your feet are designed to splay out quite a bit. It just felt a little bit too loose for me around the front section of the foot. Not a massive problem, but I just wasn't used to it. So I'm presuming that if you're a fan of Altra shoes or shoes that have a lot of space to let your feet move around freely, you probably know a lot about Altra and you're probably a big fan of that sort of design. I don't really like it that much. I would like it to be a little bit more restricted around the front section of the foot, just so that my foot feels a little bit secure. But having said that, I didn't have any issues at all with the overall fit of the shoe on the run. It felt like it was locked down quite nicely, and had no problems at all with it. So my early verdict on the Altra Outroad 2 is that it's a competent workhorse. I think the fact that it's classed as a road to trail shoe is probably not very accurate. I definitely would put this as a trail shoe for lighter trails. I wouldn't say it's a particularly good road shoe unless you really like firm road shoes. I don't think that midsole does a great deal. Maybe if you're a runner that is used to zero drop shoes, you probably don't run with a lot of stack, that midsole may actually be plenty for you. But for a runner that's used to running on the trails and the road in shoes that have a bit more stack and a little bit of a softer midsole in them, I did notice that on the road that it just didn't really give me much back. So I think if you're looking at these and you've never used Altra before, you might be surprised at how firm that is on the road, because for me it just doesn't work very well as a versatile road to trail shoe. But on the trail sections, it's absolutely fine. I think it is a solid, comfortable shoe to wear on the trails for comfortable daily miles. It feels very sturdy, it feels quite durable, and definitely I had no issues with it. So relatively successful first run on the trails, not so much on the road for me.
So my first run verdict on the Altra Outroad 2 then is broadly a positive one. I've just enjoyed those 5.5 miles in these shoes. I felt like they coped really well with exactly the run that I just did. It's very, at a very slow, very low heart rate, very easy, just clipping along. Quite a lot of technical ups and downs there. They coped on the ups, they coped on the downs. I think over lumps and bumps, that midsole, though it's firmer, it lets you know what's there, but does soak up just about enough. I didn't feel too much kind of impact coming up from the trails overall, so the feet felt comfortable. They felt nicely cradled actually in the footbed. I think the cushioning and the padding makes these feel like quite a plush sort of long run shoe as well. Yeah, I think they're a bit heavier maybe as trail shoes go, but I don't mind that too much. And they sort of ran okay there. I didn't feel like they were particularly cumbersome on there. You've got a nice wide stable base to run off. So overall from first run verdict, I think I'm sort of mildly impressed with the Altra Outroad 2. And I think one of the things that I'm really sort of falling in love with is that Altra out toe box, that nice kind of big width, particularly on the trails. I think that really serves a good purpose. You don't have any pressure points, no bashing of those toes, which is, if you suffer black toenails, that's probably what's causing it. So yeah, overall first run verdict of the Altra Outroad 2, it's a thumbs up from me so far. Looking forward to testing more.
That's it from us. Thanks a lot for watching this first run. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the little bell, and check the channel out for all the other videos we've got. Also, if you go into the caption below, you can find a link to our podcast, which comes out at the end of each month. Lasts about 45 minutes to an hour, so it's a good length of time if you want something to listen to when you're out on a run. So yeah, click on that in the caption below and you can listen to all the ones we've done over the past year or so. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.